So again, welcome post coffee session. So this is a panel discussion on the topic is what are the challenges and how do we tackle it for asset integrity as an implementation and as an concept. So it will be interactive session, obviously. I will be raising a few points or questions, maybe points only, and let the experts speak what they think about that. I have Mr. Nitin Joshi, CGM ONGC Mumbai. I have Mr. Nirmal Kumar, Deputy General Manager, IOCL Delhi, and Mr. K. Pradeep, Chief Manager, BPCL, and of course Rahul, who is CEO of Cenosco. So we will start with the discussion. My first point or the question is, as a concept and as an implementation, what are the challenges on field with respect to asset integrity? Challenges on field. So you can maybe start sequentially.
Yeah.
Anyone can.
This is a concept nowadays quite prevailing, asset integrity management. And in fact, it is not new that everybody wants to manage their assets very, very efficiently, optimistically, to complete the life cycles and all. But the change in approach today is to have some software, some sort of AI, and etc. So many of fields are, this is basically a brownfield applications for many of the companies like ours. So here I will say that I have always been on the side of operator, and the people who were managing integrity or supposed to manage integrity are the maintenance people, preventive, condition-based or inspection or RBI or something like RBI is a new technique. Earlier it was only condition-based and time-based. So the interests of these two teams are quite conflicting. Integrity managers typically think very long term. They think of full life cycle of the asset, 15 years, 20 years or something. The operators, their preference is to run the process, run the operations continuously, seamlessly, without any problem, without any shutdown, without any disturbance, etc. Now, asset integrity managers have some historical data, which is another from we will address. It's a different thing, but whatever question Samir has asked me right now is that the operator side wouldn't want to give inspection window or shutdown window or preventive maintenance window to asset integrity managers, and both have their perspectives which are right in their context. As oil and gas person, since having a very long experience, there are some typicalities in oil and gas industry where, unlike refineries who have some buffer stock, it's a batch process sort of thing. For people like us, starting from well, and particularly in gas industry, I will say from offshore wells to HBJ line, I mean Jagdishpur, it's a continuous industry. The gas is continuously flowing. There is no storage in between. So they also have a perspective. In our oil and gas field, the inspection window for many equipment which are dependent on pipeline will be very small. I mean, some pipelines, if you keep idle, they will get blocked. And everything will be a standstill and it will be difficult to revive them afterwards. So matching of the interest of asset integrity team and operating team is a difficult challenge. So that is my take on it. And lot of scheduling, lot of coordination, lot of cooperation, understanding each other's point is required in this particular thing. This is a challenge. This is the operational challenge in implementation of asset integrity particularly. Of course, simply coordination, cooperation won't help. There has to be some sort of policy from management side also, what is to be done in which case, to demarcate the responsibilities, etc. So that is my take on it.
Do you think it should be a top-down approach and it should be driven right from the topmost management to the field worker? I mean, is that what I can?
Yeah. In fact, there has to be some indication from top management that asset integrity is important. Operations as a short-term goal is also important, but it's like if you do it right now, it might be cheaper. If you do it later, it will be very costlier. You can take example of the very, very bad accident of Bhopal tragedy. So what you can say, they did not attend to it for so many years, and then it was too late. So such cases, not to that particular level or that particular risk or bad consequences, but small bad consequences, accidents or mishaps keep on happening because we are not giving enough importance to asset integrity. So that is how my fellow panelists will probably agree or.
Yeah,
I think
right.
I will hand it to the people who actually run these assets.
Thank you. Well, I'll just come right on to the question on challenges in the field. We do a lot of asset integrity programs. We conduct asset criticality analysis. We carry out reliability-centered maintenance, risk-based inspections, IEM, TEM. We arrive at a very optimal maintenance strategy, and then we want to implement it in the field. The point is, all theory is good. Failure analysis, failure mode analysis, effect analysis, system analysis, arriving at the right recommendation to be implemented at the field. We are good at it. Assume we have done the job very well. Now the point is, when we have to implement it in the field, we have moved from time-based to risk-based or predictive maintenance. So if we do not have a strong condition monitoring team, and if the competency level of condition monitoring team and the number of manpowers and man hours we need to spend, if it is not envisaged during the strategy building phase, how can we think there will be effective implementation of the recommendations? And if effective implementation is not there, definitely you cannot assure asset integrity, though our strategy might be looking so good, well, and nicely formulated. So when we move from time-based to predictive maintenance, definitely you need to strengthen the condition monitoring team, empower them with right tools and right systems in place, and we have to ensure that compliance to the actions and the frequency, whether it is appropriately being followed or not. And on top of that, suppose if a rotary engineer, he takes the data collection of vibration, temperature, lube oil conditions, and many other things as per the defined strategy and frequency, whether those alerts are getting converted into actionable items, and whether those actionable items are implementable and whether people have implemented it. And on top of that, after implementation, is there any verification and validation process that the recommendations has been successful or not? So once this entire feedback is completed, then only we can say that there is effective implementation and the strategy is becoming successful. Now the challenge is people don't implement it completely. There is a partial implementation and people question strategy. This requires revision. This strategy is already in place. Maintenance plans are getting generated. We are closing it in SAP. Still equipment is failing. What is to be done for that? We need to clearly verify whether there is compliance to all the recommendations or the recommendations have been implemented in toto. There will always be challenges during implementation. Maintenance will have a high amount of workload where they are unable to spare time to complete all the recommendations. People are working 8 hours or 16 hours to implement, but if man hours are to be spent at the right activity at the right time, that is prioritization. As he was also mentioning, when you have the list of activities, we need to sort out based on priority and based on reliability, and we need to implement it at the right time. So if that planning happens, and as per that planning, if the actions are being implemented in priority, we will be able to achieve maximum reliability with less maintenance activity. And this is actually a vicious circle. When we try to implement a new strategy, we need to put in a lot of effort to make the implementation come live. So after that only we can have good times where we spend less hours in maintenance with high reliability. To pitch in reliability and to move from one vicious circle to a good vicious circle, we need to put more man hours in the beginning of implementation of strategy to make it successful, right? And second is the challenge is we have man hours, we have manpower allocated to the job as well, but the competency level is less. So if the competency level is less, it is very difficult to identify the problem and to give corrective actions in time. So proper training is absolutely necessary, and whenever we are changing a strategy, it is actually a management of change. We need to ensure that it is communicated down the line and ensure appropriate training is provided to people, and also we need to ensure that at the ground level, at the bottom level where people are getting executing are fully convinced of the strategy that it is going to be successful, and it is judicious for me to spend that time right now to implement this strategy. So this conviction and people should get convinced to implement this strategy is a key challenge, and for that you need to penetrate down the line with appropriate culture. So if we focus on culture, then we can impregnate this strategy in people so that there is clear acceptance for implementation. So these are the challenges that are there in the field which will actually make implementation more effective. Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. Actually, that reminds one sentence of Peter Drucker. I know you might have heard many times. I mean, he says that culture eats strategy for breakfast. So, fantastic. I mean, you're right, but it also coincides with Nitin's point of there should be a buy-in from each and every aspect or each and every level of stakeholders. Then only they will get convinced. Otherwise, they will not. And then it might fail, even though strategy is great. Right? Fantastic. Thank you. Your point, sir.
Yeah, sure. If you talk about the asset integrity, the first challenge comes in making the complete list of all the equipment present in your industry. For example, in our case, we have 10 refineries across the country. If I talk about centrifugal pump, it's more than 22,000. So first we have to make the list of all the equipment, what we call as an asset. And suppose the main mistakes where happens, suppose there is a supercritical equipment, a single line equipment. If it fails, the whole process unit, it goes under interruption, it goes under shutdown. Everybody is taking care of that supercritical equipment. Online condition monitoring is installed, everything is installed. But when it is actually tripping, it is tripping because of any failure of any auxiliary, any small instrumentation, lube well pump, auxiliary lube well pump, bladder accumulator, PCV. So very small reasons it fails. So that gets missed actually. Everything comes under continuous condition monitoring, but those small equipment are not under the continuous condition monitoring, and that particular equipment is failing because of that small equipment. So the first challenge is when we talk that we are going for asset integrity, we are creating the list of the equipment, we should ensure that along with the main equipment, all the auxiliary equipment, including the drivers, all the tripping logics and everything, even the tripping logics also, are mapped with that equipment as a set and subset. So this should be the first step where the most of the industries, they fail. Second challenge, when we define the criticality. Theoretically, it is everywhere theory is there, PQ, SM or something, we have to define the criticality. Okay, we defined this is critical, semi-critical, least critical, non-critical. But when the plant is running, the criticality changes. Because if suppose A, B, C, we have 3 equipment, same make model, same service, but C is failing more with respect to A and B. So C needs more attention. So criticality is changing with the rate of the failure. Low MTBF is shifting the criticality. So our system should also take care that if failure is happening according to that, our criticality should also shift. It should bring more attention for the preventive or predictive maintenance of that equipment. So this is the second point, that our system should respond to the daily failure history condition of the equipment. Third challenge, when it comes, we have, as per the criticality, we defined preventive maintenance, time-based maintenance, predictive maintenance, everything is there. But that frequency should also go on changing as per the, if failure is happening. And when the task is performed, we, as also discussed earlier, we get recommendations. So our system should be there that the cycle should get completed. Whatever recommendation is being generated based on, say, suppose if daily walkthrough is going on, any particular technician or operator is going to the site, he is noting so many abnormalities. So where those abnormalities are getting reported automatically, whether it is, and how much time we are taking to respond to that noted abnormality. Or even during the predictive maintenance, if any recommendation is generated, how much time we are taking to implement that recommendation, and then feedback of that recommendation, what was the PDM effectiveness of that recommendation, whether that recommendation was 100% accurate or 90% accurate or 80% accurate. So what next action should be taken? So implementation of the observation and recommendations is the next challenge. Our system should take care of it. And the next, when we define all the jobs during any turnaround or shutdown, so what are the jobs has to be taken up for the main equipment, for a small equipment, replacement of any obsolete equipment, because again we will, in our case, refinery case, we get the chance of doing maintenance after 4 years. So what action should be taken at the time of total shutdown, turnaround, so that we should be ensure that our equipment is reliable enough to run continuously for the next 4 years. So these are the basic challenges if I talk about. And the fourth is, of course, the fifth one is the training part, because new people are joining, old are getting retired. So we should take care of that knowledge, and experience should flow at each and every level as per the requirement.
Thank you. Thanks. Rahul, your take?
Absolutely. I think I agree with almost everything the gentlemen on the panel have said. It would be strange if I did not. They're the ones running the businesses. We are just the tool providers, right, to help them implement that. I think I said something in my opening speech. I said that a system is only as good as the people who are using it and how that system is being used, the data that goes into the system, how the people who use that data. I think some learnings that I've had in terms of where things fail a lot of times when there's a lot of good intention to implement a new system in place, particularly integrity or reliability. One is there is not buy-in from across the company. Buy-in has to be at every level, from right at the management level, mid-management level, down to the site level. A lot of times we'll have one or two, right? At the site level, people really want a new system. They're struggling. They don't have control over the asset. They don't have control inside. A lot of times we go and people have their hands on their head saying, hey, this thing is out of control. I'm running out of time, running out of resources. Anything can happen at any time, right? There's risk that is not in control. And they want a software, but they're stuck in a budget approval cycle loop, right? Because somebody at the top who owns the budget doesn't think it is important. On the other side, somebody at the top thinks this is very important, wants to implement the software, has approved a budget, and is trying to push his or her decision down the stack, and you can't move forward. So it's very, very important. And it's also the job of the vendor when they engage with their customer, with the prospect, to manage all stakeholders. Right? I think that is critical. It is our job to go in and say, hey, unless there is buy-in at all stages, let's do the homework instead of just trying to sell the deal. Let's do the homework. Let's make sure that there's a good plan in place on how we transition from where we are to where we want to go.
Thank you. Thank you, Rahul. That brings a related topic, but not entirely related, but it is about standardization. And a lack of standardization, how big an impact it does on implementation of integrity solution. Lack of standardization existing in the company how it impacts if a vendor or if Cenosco or ImageGrafix goes there and tries to implement asset integrity, and the existing status is not at all standardized environment, how it will impact? Maybe and now I will start with
Yeah, sure.
Rahul himself.
Sure. I think this is a big trap, and I think we all need to avoid it. It's very common that a software vendor, a software partner like ImageGrafix will go into an environment. The customer has a very complex environment, right? And then as a vendor, it's very easy for us to agree at that moment that the sales team is talking to the customer. Yes, we can do everything. We will customize the solution. We will do exactly what you do today in digital form. That day, everybody is happy, right? When the deal is closed, everybody thinks, the customer thinks, we bought a digital solution that will minimize change management. The vendor thinks, okay, I've closed a deal, money in my pocket, revenue is high. But the problem starts 12 months, 24 months, 36 months down the line. You have now created a bespoke system for that customer that is stuck as the years pass, in that past. You never get advantage of new technologies that keep coming up. So for example, at Cenosco, we will walk away from deals. We will very kindly, direct our customers, our prospects to other providers, other, let's call it custom providers, if they don't want a standard solution, because we truly believe that the nature of technology, again, I'll go back to the gentleman from ONGC who kicked off the session today, right? Who said, change is the only constant. If you don't adapt, you will fail. I think the nature of technology is such that you need to keep up with it. The only way to keep up with it is to be on standard platforms. So there needs to be that acknowledgement from the customer that yes, we have decided to change. Just having a budget alone is not enough, in my opinion.
Okay.
Yeah. In fact, I will agree with Rahul, but I will add to it. Change is only constant. That is true even in case of standards.
True.
So,
Absolutely.
So that is what I mean to say. Today, some question came up regarding OST standards, and Rohan said that we have to interact with the regulators and get the standards changed. So even in case of, in our company also, we have interacted with OSDs and tried to prevail on them that this standard is not, and in fact, not required, and it asks the companies to incur so much of expenditure that it doesn't remain, the business doesn't remain viable. So what I say that standards, after giving careful thought to some issue, we decide I have some experience in databases, and ultimately, be it Oracle, be it any RDBMS, it goes into simple column heads and rows. So that is all. And if you simply think that if there is a database of persons having this much salary and something like that, and if you get interchanged, so there will be a havoc. So, and second thing, we keep on learning. So first we decide that, okay, there is a compressor or there is some static equipment. We need to have asset integrity managed. We want at least 10 column heads. But after a year, that equipment fails, and we find that the failure reason had a seed in something else which we never recorded. So this can happen. And therefore, my take on this is that whatever sort of standardization, I mean, standards are basically graphs. It's a tables which we are asking operators and inspection engineers to put into the software. So what I suggest that these standards also need to be flexible and adaptable. In future cases there are some addition of a database has to be put in. This is on very basics of it, and my suggestion on this will be that people like Cenosco, because many a times there are people who are giving distributed control systems or SCADA or something like that, and data historians are flowing into Cenosco. In that case, they themselves are not standard. They are pickups, and so many things are not standard or they are different. So it's making a standard is a I mean, whole industry has to sit across and develop a standard which is to that time best available and still flexible and adaptable for future changes. So that should be the case in our industry. That is my take on this.
Thank you.
So, in terms of standardization, I look at it two ways. One is standardization of practices, another is standardization of platforms. So, when we select a platform where we need to standardize across group refineries, so here at BPCL, I take care of 3 refineries, Mumbai, Kochi and Bina. They all 3 have different cultures. They all 3 have different practices, and they all 3 have different belief systems. When we have to standardize, if we standardize only, we can compare apple to apple. His practice might be different, his practice might be different. But in terms of integrity, if I have to compare between refineries and processes to arrive at, okay, so he is much more reliable than this practice is much more reliable than this. This requires standardization if you have to compare and to solve, because most problems get solved when we compare similar systems and similar practices. So even without doing root causes, when you streamline a process, the process takes care of the result. So this standardization is very important to merge different culture, and we need to convince culture also. So when you standardize, you need to be very careful and sensitive in standardizing. And like there are other standards like OASD, API and many other things are there which are giving a guidelines and which are basics to be followed. So when you set a strategy for your organization, it should cover everything, but it should be one step above, and it has to merge all the culture where people believe that this standardization, it helps in their existing processes that are being followed, and the transition from existing phase to this new phase is not challenging. That is the main important point when you are trying to standardize. Coming to platform, definitely training and configuration will definitely help. But in terms of standardizing the practices, we need to ensure that all the discussions and mergers are being incorporated appropriately in the platform so that people accept the platform to use the same. So in standardization, I would opinionate stating that standards should be well above all the standards that are being set, and we need to incorporate culture and existing practices to come up to a mid-level where standards are being accepted across where we are trying to implement. So that definitely will help us in standardization as well.
Certainly. Certainly. Sure.
When
Thank
we
you.
talk about the standardization about the asset integrity, I think first it should start with the safety standards, what we have in a particular industry, what should be followed during the execution of maintenance or during the daily operation. So safety standard should be in place, and it should be easily available to each and every worker, maybe in front of his desktop, or it should be displayed at the site. After that, we should have the standard maintenance practices for each and every equipment when we do overhauling or maintenance or troubleshooting. So that should be defined so that across the various locations it should be practiced. And as the time goes on, if there is any improvement, there is any new takeaway, or there is change in technology, so that should be upgraded with time. Then there should be a standard operating procedure. Then asset, if we talk about the particularly any asset, then we should have a defined checklist as a standard. What checklist we should follow when we do the maintenance at site, when we do daily walkthrough, or when we do the complete overhauling. So all types of checklist should be standardized for each and every equipment of all the disciplines. And it will bring, then only we will get the maintenance history will be generated in a particular format then only we can use that history for troubleshooting, for analysis, for creating various types of dashboard, and for creating any type of a dashboard or a valuable report. The data must be entered in a particular format. So that can only be achieved when we standardize the data capturing process. So checklisting and data capturing is very important. Then we should have standard format for carrying out the failure analysis of each and every equipment, so that we get the correct type of analysis and correct type of recommendations and complete follow-up system and learning from that failure, so that it is horizontally deployed. For in our case, to all the 10 refineries, if there is any failure at one location, the learning should get deployed to all the locations, and advance proactive action is taken so that that failure is not getting repeated in a new location. So learning from the failure is very important, and for that standard system should be there in place. And there should be defined standard for the trainings also. When any particular mechanical, electrical, instrumentation or civil engineer is joining, then during the first year there should be the standard training. After 2 years, after 3 years, there should be the training. If he is going in a new department or new exposure, so that should be training. And for trading also, the standard should be like the courses are easily available on internet, so that from the mobile also, from app also, he can learn the things and he can share the knowledge. He can upload his new learnings or the slides, so that it is easily transformed or communicated within the industry.
Thank you. Thank you. My final question, I will start with Rahul. I mean, there are 3 users or 3 customers sitting your left and right, and you representing Cenosco, you are having the product in your hand. Mm-hmm. What do you think these customers or prospects should focus upon before implementing IMS or integrity management system? Before?
First of all, they shouldn't only look at IMS as a platform. I think they should look at all of our competitors as well. Maybe there are other competitors who are a better suit for their problems. For example, as I mentioned, we don't customize our solution that much, right? What we do is that we obviously have third-party application partners, ImageGrafix being one, obviously from a commercial side. I think there was a gentleman from Capgemini. Capgemini is also a global partner, starting in Europe and now expanding globally with us. So first of all, look at all of your options. Don't go just with one vendor. I would say that's number one. Number two, I think, as I mentioned, there should be a clear drive from within the organization that this is important, this should be done, and that we have a clear path of execution. One thing that I noticed quite a bit, oil and gas, because of the complexity, I think, projects, good ideas start in year 1. It's by year 5 that the decision is made, and then it takes another 2 to 3 years to implementation. By the time that implementation finishes, technology has already moved on 5-10 years. So I think if there is alignment within the organization that an integrity, reliability management platform is important, I would say all levels of the company, particularly the management, should move quickly and take interest, right? I implement software at Cenosco as well. I'm also a customer for many other softwares. Sometimes there are critical platform softwares that really need management involvement. If you don't get involved personally, sometimes the project will fail. It will fall down because it just doesn't have that decision maker to underwrite the risk. My key takeaway, I'm an engineer, but I'm an electrical engineer. I haven't worked in the oil and gas space a lot. But outside in, as I'm learning about oil and gas, it's all about managing risk, right? Getting maximum production while you're managing the risk correctly. So I would say think about that, and then finally be ready for change, right? Be ready to embark on a change management journey. Pick a vendor who's willing to partner with you through that change management journey, understands that process, brings best-in-class capability. So, for example, one of the reasons that larger customers like us a lot at Cenosco, we have a large team of domain experts. So people like Rowan, who you heard from, he himself has worked in the field, starting off in the field as a manager in live oil and gas environments, right? These people, and then he spent a lot of time on the IT side as well. So having people who can combine those knowledges, stop you from making basic mistakes, get you to a best-in-class level or the baseline very quickly is important.
Your take on how you think from a customer or a prospect side or a user side, you would love to be prepared for a platform like asset integrity management.
Yeah, from customer side, as Rahul has rightly said, I will say that customer has to check the readiness of its own setup, industry, the skill level of people, which takes long time, many a times to upgrade. So they have to be aware of all these things, which will help the customers to get full advantage of these systems. In fact, Cenosco or maybe other competitor, as you said, can be a very good system, but just putting system in place and faulty implementation or even after implementation, it's a lifelong process. We have to, the asset integrity management is for the full life cycle. So, in this case, as management has to take personal interest in that, this is also should be there, and they should focus while implementing. They have to focus on creating key performance indicators, which will be part of performance evaluation of various stakeholders. So many times it so happens that that is the first way of giving importance to implementation of asset integrity systems. So without that, nothing will happen, because giving a lip service that this is important doesn't help. There has to be hard KPIs for that while implementing, these are the milestones and these are the people responsible for it, for change management and so many things. So customers need to focus on all these aspects, whether they will be able to do this to get the full deliverability or full advantages of particular asset integrity management system. That is how it will be.
Sure. Thank you. Or as Mr. Nirmal Singh said, that the asset register itself, that should be, because some of the auxiliary equipments, for example, who are related or attached to the main critical equipment, if it is missed, then we have missed the bus itself. Right. And not only in asset integrity related software, even a simple CMMS or a maintenance management software also, we should be taking care of that asset registry intactness rather. And there is no point in missing even a single equipment. If you want to miss, then it should not be there in the registry itself, but it should not happen that you are operating that equipment, but you are not having a digital record of it in any of your system. What are other takes?
Other things, suppose before starting asset integrity at any location, industry, the first thing should be, there should be zeal to excel for that industry, that we are going to do better. We have to improve the reliability of the complete equipment, integrity, the system, the complete equipment, and the maintenance strategy we are going to improve. The first thing should be the zeal, that they have to excel. Second is the preparation at the ground level. Each and every department or discipline, they should be ready with their equipment list is, all the equipment list is mapped or registered in their own system. For example, in our case, SAP is there. So the functional location of each and every equipment is prepared, and make the basic details like make, model, serial number, part number, the bill of material of each and every equipment, all the material are codified. So everything is mapped. Bill of material is prepared so that when we implement the spares interchangeability program, that can be, it can be run. Or when we develop any AI/ML based something like the maintenance strategy using the advanced technology, so that can be done. So all the equipment with their basic details, it should be registered. And the second thing, they're all the, if we have the documents or drawings, so that should be properly scanned and kept at particular location with correct nomenclature, with any standard nomenclature, so that whenever it will be asked to map the equipment, drawings and everything. So everything is easily available in a particular centralized location. That should be the second step. Third should be, because in asset integrity, we will also talk about the criticality and the maintenance practices and everything. So existing all the practices, guidelines, the reliability task force guidelines, or any maintenance or overhauling guidelines. So we should have first a list of all the existing guidelines, so that when we do the integration, everything will be defined in a synchronized or a critical manner, that what guideline will be applicable at what stage, and how it will affect the system. So everything should be prepared at a basic level, starting from equipment to practices. So each and every material, their availability, whatever we have in scrap, the cost and everything.
I will play the devil's role here, because all these refineries or oil and gas companies, or say chemical company, whichever it is, almost all the assets are quite old. I can sort of generalize the statement, even though it might not be true 100%. However, most of the assets are very old.
Yes.
There might be some counter view that we have drawings, for example, those are old paper drawings. I mean, they will start with this statement. I know that. Then they will say that some of our equipment data is missing. So the point you raised is very much valid, that we should be prepared with all the aspects and with all the respects. How do you tackle such counter views that, oh, these are very old machines, we don't have any data? If
No,
we
data has to be there. If equipment has to give result at the site, data has to be there. Otherwise, how we will do the analysis or maintenance? So the first thing is, if equipment is there at site, so there should be first obsolescence guideline should be in place. For example, for any instrumentation equipment, the guideline may be every 8 years it needs to be replaced with a new one. Some instrumentation are replaced in every 3 or 4 years. Mechanical equipment is running since last 35-40 years, but still it is running. So there should be the first guideline should be there, that when any particular equipment will become obsolete, then if drawing is not there, it happens in our case also in the old refineries, that particular equipment is not having drawing, then we contact the OEM, we try to develop the drawing. Or nowadays technologies are available that by using the 3D and mechanism, we can develop the drawing of the complete, not only for the complete equipment it's inside, but for the complete process unit we can develop. The P&ID also we can develop, including all the asset details and a mapping of all the circuits. So nowadays I think it's not a challenge to have the drawing.
Thank you.
So before implementation of asset integrity or software, what is to be checked and what is to be looked upon? First thing is, we must be clear on purpose. What are we aiming at, and what are we planning to implement? Software is just a digital tool, right? If you consider it to be a digital initiative, it will remain as a digital initiative and never reliability will improve. So it should be a reliability initiative, and definitely digital is a tool that will drive to achieve the results. So if you place this very clearly, you will understand asset and people are the key aspect that is to be taken during this implementation. So as there was a small debate on since being old refineries, old equipments, ready-made drawings are not available. Definitely I agree that if we aspire to, we can make the drawings available. But the point is, when it is time to move forward, as he has also mentioned that by the time we implement, the software is becoming obsolete and a next version is available with a higher feature and higher capability. What we must do is, in a project timeline, an immediate implementation plays a very key role. So we need to keep moving forward. There is no staying back for decision. We need to keep moving forward, and we need to keep ourselves to the latest version to ensure reliability in place. But still, there is a trade-off thing. Most point in time, implementation may take say 365 days, but decision making also takes 365 days. So that's a big challenge here. So before implementing, you should have a blueprint and a roadmap in your uh, uh, what do you call a business plan. So if you have a clear formulated blueprint and aim at what is to be achieved, then I think that everything else and all the questions will be easily answered if that is kept in mind. So next is you need to have a clear understanding on what are our existing systems which are taking care of asset integrity and how to integrate everything and bring into this platform so that you have one platform where you can assess the health of the refinery in toto where all the equipments are linked to. So you need to check the capability of the software, whether it can be integrated with the existing system or not, and what are its limitations. So once you list down all the list of softwares that you are currently using and you map it to the desired software what you want and ensure that your scope is made crystal clear. So if you have a clear scope in place, the scope itself will shortlist the software which you are going to buy. So that is what we need to be very clear upon. And as I mentioned earlier, people are the key. Though the drawings are not available, but information is in the live books. What I mean live book is people. So whenever we implement or bring in an idea for getting a software, you should always formulate a cross-functional team where all the subject matter expertise come into a common pool and they give solutions for the challenges in implementation. So when this happens, all people will co-create this mission, and when people co-create, definitely implementation becomes much more easier and it becomes much more important to people who are implementing it. And therein by we can ensure that whatever projects we take in can be implemented in toto. So in perspective, before implementation, we need to focus on purpose, have a clear roadmap, and have full knowledge on the existing system, and ensure that all relevant people are involved in it, and ensure that accountability is provided as well as empowerment is provided to the people who will be implementing this.
Fantastic. I think you almost summarized all the four views, and those were not at all different from each other, almost concurring on with each other. So what I got is obviously there has to be a clear-cut purpose, and it has to be top-down as well as the all stakeholders. The last rung stakeholder should also be giving his buy-in to use, because he will be using that software actually. So the buy-ins should be there at the each stage as well as at the level. And we should be prepared right starting from asset register and not missing even a single equipment, so that we cover all the plant. I think it was fantastic. Rahul, you want to conclude, or you want to have a concluding remark?
I only want to say, I think choosing any platform, I think many of you use SAP. You know how difficult it is to replace SAP, right? I think choosing a platform level technology, whether that is your CMMS system, whether it is a AIMS system, I think it's like a marriage. You go into it, it takes a lot of investment, takes a lot of people management, process management. So please choose carefully, choose your partners carefully, I would say. Again, evaluate all of your partners, not just Cenosco, and look for the characteristics, people who will partner with you on delivering KPIs, not with a big bang 5 years into the future, but delivering ROI step by step, working with you, providing domain expertise, really helping you be better, bringing knowledge from around the world to you. So that's what I wanted to say.
Sure.
Yeah, you said marriage, and one thing just
Yeah.
you probably forgot, there has to be commitment.
Yes, true. True.
Good. It was a fantastic session. I enjoyed it. I hope you all must have liked it.